Let us offer our consecration to the Lord. Lord, we offer up to you this day, and we glorify your name as we begin a new book in our daily readings, as we look forward to where you are leading us this day, where you are leading us for the rest of the year, and lead us to glorify your name as your servants. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Well, today, remember, yesterday was the last reading of these daily readings we've had. I mean, they may pop up a few times, but the last reading from the Torah, the first 5 books in the Bible. So now we're going into the book of Joshua. Now, understand that this is part of the daily readings that are at Mass, and you see them every single day. There are 2 years. There's year 1 and year 2. That's on weekdays. On weekends, there are 3 years, A, B, and C. So right now we're in year A and we're year 1. How do you know which year you're in? Well, year A, that's whatever the gospel is the year you're in. A is Matthew, B is Mark, and C is Luke. So we're going through on Sundays the Gospel of Matthew, and John is interspersed with all 3 years. But this year we're going through the Gospel of Matthew and a little bit of John. And we're also year 1. So how do you know which of the 2 years is your year? And the answer is really simple, even for me, with all my bad math, really simple. Odd years are year 1, even years are year 2. And there you go. There it is. Those are the 2 years. So we've been in year 1, and we're continuing, and a lot of the readings at this time, they vary. Some of them in the Old Testament, some of them in the New Testament, but a lot of the readings are coming to us from the Old Testament. And so we've taken readings coming from the Torah, which are the first 5 books of the Bible. We finished that yesterday, and today we're beginning the next book, and this is the book of Joshua. If you ever want to hear a great tune, listen to, if you've got your favorite smart speaker, ask the smart speaker to play Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho. I first heard it. I'll give you a little bit about who I am. On Saturday nights, it's something I've done for years. On Saturday nights, I listen to the Grand Ole Opry. It's one of those things I do. Just kind of, people get into their routines. I don't have a necessary routine for every night, but Saturday nights, I listen to the Grand Ole Opry. So I first heard it on the Grand Ole Opry, and this is Daly and Vincent's version of Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho. I'm describing it. I can't play it because of copyright issues, but it's a great tune, and it's an old spiritual, African spiritual. So anyway, there's a billion versions of it. As a matter of fact, I went to my personal smart speaker, whose name I will not mention, otherwise she will respond to it, but may give you a hint of which of them I have. And I asked for Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho, and of course, turns out there are a billion versions of it, so I had to figure out which one is this. But I think one of the best versions I've heard is by Daly and Vincent. So anyway, Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho. And it fits, pardon the pun, I guess, because today we are entering into the book of Joshua. And we know the story of Jericho. By the way, anthropologists have discovered that there really was a Jericho, and there really was a Battle of Jericho. And if you're coming here to St. Anthony Parish on Tuesday nights, they do what is known in the Brazilians do the Cerco de Jerico. And what that is they take the Eucharist in procession and they walk around the property singing the Portuguese version of Joshua Fought the Battle of Jericho. So kind of a fascinating, it's what they actually do here on Tuesday nights. But anyway, for up until the end of August. They do it for 7 weeks because that's what's in the Bible, and they do it every summer. So, but anyway, we're at the very beginning, and this is the story where they're taking the Ark of the Covenant. Now, remember the story of the Ark. Again, probably you can learn a heck of a lot about the importance of the Ark of the Covenant by enjoying yourself and going seeing the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it was an excellent movie, and it really described the belief of the movie. If you remember, the idea of the movie was the Nazis wanted to find the Ark because they believed falsely, and of course this is fiction, but they believed falsely that anyone who owned the Ark would win the war. And that's clearly in the Bible that is not true, but they believed falsely in the story. They didn't actually believe that. Maybe they did. I don't know. But in any case, they are now taking the Ark and they're crossing over the Jordan River to get into the promised land. So again, God has to reestablish his authority now in Joshua instead of Moses, because Moses died, and his authority in the Ark. We're going to talk more on the other side of the break. You're listening to St. Anthony Overnight from St. Anthony in Alston. Don't forget to tell others where they can find our program. You can hear us on WEZE 590 AM and WEZEradio.com at midnight and 3 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday, Eastern Time. We then podcast the program on your favorite podcast platform and at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. You can also hear us on our parish website, ST for StAnthonyAlston.org. That's StAnthonyAlston.org. And let others know where they can find us and spread the word and subscribe to our podcast. And don't forget, we have a Sunday Mass at 10 o'clock a.m. that you have a standing invitation to come check out. So Sundays at 10 o'clock a.m. So anyway, what we're seeing in today's reading is that they take the Ark of the Covenant and they're going to cross the Jordan, and the minute the priest's feet touch the waters, the river stops flowing. It stops flowing from up the river. Now, how that happened, besides the miraculous, we don't know. I mean, if you'd want to understand what the mechanics of that were, and I'm not saying there isn't anything miraculous with that, but you want to understand. I mean, would the water just stop so you have this like wall of water that doesn't pursue any further? Don't know. But anyway, so that's what I'm talking about, the mechanics of it. So anyway, the minute their feet touched the Jordan, bam, the water stops. So they cross the Jordan into the promised land. And what's happening with that? Well, what's happening with that is very simple, is that God is, number one, showing his power rests with Joshua, showing that his authority rests with Joshua, and that God's authority is still with his people, that they are to still believe in the authority of God, that God is with them, and at the same time, they recognize that that his representative to them now is Joshua. So they are to give him their full attention and to trust in Joshua. So that's what's being established here. You know, you see that throughout the Bible, that God, in the Old Testament and in the New Testament in Jesus, is establishing his authority. So how do we do that? We see in the Old Testament, we see that the priests step into the Jordan River, which I'm assuming is a fairly wide river. I don't know. I've never been to, remember, my voice has been to the Middle East. I have not. So they step into the Jordan River. It stops the water. And again, I don't know how wide the Jordan is because I've never been there. But it stops the water, and God is showing the people his authority and his power so that they will trust in him. Well, do we see anything similar to that? Sure. When Jesus shuts down the storm, remember when the apostles are in the boat and Jesus is sleeping and there's a big storm and the waves are coming over the water. And, you know, if you're out to sea during a storm, it can be pretty scary. Even if you are on a ship, as I was in the Navy, it's fun if you're not drowning, but it's also scary. And literally, just like you see in movies and stuff, it looks like the wave crashes over the bow. Well, that's what it looks like from the side. And when you're actually on the bridge, it looks like that the ship goes underwater. And when you're looking at it from the side, you will literally see these waves come and splash against the highest parts of the ship. So it's a pretty intense experience. And when you're in this small fishing boat of that time and you're hitting a really bad storm and the waves are coming off, it could be intensely scary because obviously they're afraid they're going to sink. And what do? They turn to the Lord and they say, who's sleeping, aren't you afraid? And he stands up. Aren't you afraid? Aren't you going to do anything about this? Hello? Can't you at least get up and bail? I mean, obviously they don't say it that way, but that's what they're thinking. And he just gets up and he stops the storm. He, as I like to say, shuts off the storm and then tells them, why were you afraid? Well, it's the same principle. Just as he's done with Moses, so as he did with Joshua, in today's reading, does he also do in Jesus. That establishing the authority and letting them know God is with them. We'll talk more tomorrow. This is Father Robert J. Carr wishing you a blessed day. I want to call your attention to Catholic TV, which offers great faith-filled, family-friendly programming 24 hours a day. You can find your cable channel at www.getcatholictv.com, and you can watch online on the free apps or check out the YouTube channel. Daily Mass, Rosaries, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the Our Lady of Perpetual Help Novena are all available online and on demand. Check out CatholicTV.com. If you would like to support our program, please consider a donation to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. There are several ways to consider this. One is to purchase any of our merchandise, which you can find at the shopping tab at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. There are coffee mugs there. There's also my latest book, Encounter Christ in Your Humanity, all of which you can find at the shopping tab at CatholicAudiomedia.com. You can also donate to the show directly through either the Donate tab, also at CatholicAudiomedia.com, or by sending a donation through the U.S. Postal Service with your questions and comments at 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. That's St. Anthony Parish, 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. Finally, the best way you can support our parish is to attend Mass on Sundays at 10 o'clock and be a part of our parish. We thank you for any support you would like to give to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts, the sponsoring parish for this media outreach to Catholics and other Christians in the WROL, WEZE, and podcast listening audience. In Cristo vivimos.